Back to school is busy enough. The last thing you need is shopping that makes it harder. Whether you're moving into a dorm, your first apartment, or just getting organized for the semester, Wayfair makes it easy to get everything you need in one place. Furniture, bedding, storage, decor, study essentials, all at prices you'll love, with fast shipping before move-in day. Get everything you need for back-to-school season. Shop Wayfair.com today.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The keen-eyed amongst you are going to notice that we've started a new book now. That other book about decency and that for women in public is over, thank fuck. The next one, and for those of you that aren't that bright or maybe don't read, we're on a new book. This is called Egyptian Medicine by what I presume is a lady called Carole Reeves. So you can say what you want about me being sexist and that, but this is 2 books on the bounce written by women. So there's only 9 chapters. There's only 71 pages. We like a short book. So I'm going to read you the introduction with this one, and then I'm going to read you. I'll read you the chronology first, then the introduction, and then I'll read you the first section, which is called Health and Hygiene. And this will also go out free as well, just to try and entice people over, just a little little taster to try and get people over there. But let's get going. I'll describe the pictures as well to you as we go, and obviously, I'll probably make stuff up as well when I get bored. Chronology from W.J. Murnane, The Penguin Guide to Ancient Egypt, 1983, and including names of those rulers mentioned in the text. And if you're into rulers, could I interest you in a Dicta scale where you can measure your penis and make it look bigger? There's also very big Egyptian news at the minute, because they found them springs in it underneath the pyramids, almost like it's some form of gun mechanism, like waiting underneath the crust of the earth to be able to fire out these pyramids that may be invading spaceships or something, but who knows. Neolithic period was before 5000 BC. The pre-dynastic period, 5000 to 3300 BC. Proto-dynastic period, 3300 to 3050 BC. Early dynastic period, 3050 to 2613 BC. Really hard to fucking read, purely because it's counterintuitive, because the numbers are getting smaller and you know that it's getting closer to now. You're like doing gymnastics in my brain. During that time, we had the first dynasty, Dynasty 1. Then we had Horus Artholis, Horus the Jur. And then 2890 to 2682, Dynasty 2, Dynasty Harder. Right, so this carries on for another 5 minutes or so. But because this is the free version, and because I want you to sign up to Patreon and not just listen to me list a load of numbers, we're going to just jump straight into it. So hopefully you've stuck through that bit there, because I understand that might be a bit torturous, but here you go. Here's the actual reading bit. Research into the medicine, I should probably make a note of where this starts, pretty much 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Research into the medicine and diseases of ancient Egypt involves the study of many aspects of its civilization. The study of literary sources, not literally sources. That would be condominology or something, wouldn't it, if you're literally studying sources. And artistic representations in painting and sculpture, as well as the examination of skeletal remains and mummies, has yielded a wealth of material. Like the harvesting, like the bone robbers, the grave robbers of old. We need of yore. In addition, the wider interaction between ancient disease and the contemporary environment involves the studies of architecture and town planning, clothing, nutrition, agriculture, and animal husbandry, commerce, and travel. Oh, there's an extra hand thrown in there. Already though, this is written more modern than the other stuff. What year is this from? I forgot to tell you. This is from. What year? Oh, it's from 1992. Quite possibly a little, a bit too contemporary, maybe for us. I don't know. It's probably not going to be that weird. Might just be interesting, a genuinely interesting one, which I think we'll get through in a few weeks. So don't worry if you're not into ancient Egypt. But we have done an episode on ancient Egypt, so this kind of adds to that, doesn't it? Medicine's both an art and a science, which is the sort of thing a serial killer would say, innit, really? Or a surgeon who's not very good at his job. Do you know, like he keeps spilling blood on the floor and he's using it like some form of Rorschach test. Like blotting it on the floor and then sticking it in a frame. Writing the little name of the child he was working on. Derek underneath. And then the year Derek died, which would obviously be the day he performed surgery. The art of restoring and preserving health is as old as life itself. But the science, is that rhymed? But the science of discovering and analysing the process of disease is little more than a century old, and could not have been accomplished without parallel advances in technology. Modern medicine is greatly assisted by diagnostic techniques such as radiography, computed tomography, electron and light microscopy. Microscopy it'll be, won't it? It's because I've said tomography, I want to be able to say it in a different way. Serology, which I don't know what it is, and endoscopy, which is where you shove cameras up people's arseholes, all of which have been applied to ancient Egyptian remains. Imagine having that, just being the guys like you get you break the dust, you like that, you've got through the fucking cabinet that the body's in, that you found in the pyramid, and then you're coughing like that from all the dust, and you're like, right, bring me the tube, and you just shove a tube with a camera up the mummy's arsehole. All the other explorers and all the other like Mr. Joneses are looking at you and like, why did we bring you? You're into this far too much. Big grin on your face because you're finally able to use that bit of kit your missus got you for Christmas as well, which you've not looked at since, but you've said, once I go to Egypt, love, I'm going to shove that up a mummy's arsehole, and I'm gonna refute the myths that they used to pull the brain out the arse. And it's a good job that he did, really, because otherwise we wouldn't know that they came out the nose. It is now possible not only to blood group mummies, but to extract DNA by molecular cloning. See, that sounds scary already, doesn't it? Like, why bring them back? Why clone them? Why clone anything from a mummy? There's no need. They're dead. They died for a reason. Stop trying to bring them back. You're gonna clone them? And then I don't understand, man. It's just a strange, scary thing to do. And to get the blood group of them, see, if you bring it in stuff like blood group and what's that called where you study blood, phlebotomy. If you're bringing in the phlebotomy side of it and you're like, I don't really trust you, because if you're going to start, right, if it's wrong for the general public to say, hey, all of these people here are group A, that group over there, group B, that group over there, and that group over there, like that, right? I mean, as long as I suppose you don't say the like that, maybe you're alright, but I don't get why scientists can do it and we can't. And it's a bit weird as well. It's almost like they're trying to change history to be like, oh yeah, there's only ever been 5 blood groups, or 6 blood groups, whatever there is. I imagine there might be more, I don't know. But there's not a lot. Considering how many letters of the alphabet there are, and then we name these blood groups A, AB, BA, BA-ons, BSC-ons, and all that is fucking stupid. To analyse trace elements in teeth by atomic absorption spectrometry. This is fucking mint meat words, I've got no idea what they mean. To measure metal levels in bone. So they're looking for the adamantium by X-ray fluorescence, and to computerise all these details into the International Mummy Database held at Manchester Museum. Little shout out for Manchester Museum there, which is kind of where I first looked at taxidermy when I was a kid. The application of modern techniques to the study of Egyptian remains has enabled new diagnoses to be made, and in some cases, the old ones to be redefined. See, look at that. That's redefining. So that we know it's history, we know it's science, but then we can use science to refute science and change science and therefore change history. And then when you start to question, are dinosaurs really real? Did the mummies actually have superpowers or did they not? Then you're the lunatic. Until then, scientists, as in like scientists, come along and go, hey, hang about. Actually, I've invented this machine and I've been paid millions of pounds for this machine. And when I paid them millions of pounds for this machine, I paid them to that guy over there who's also on the same council I am. And he owns the company that makes the parts that I use to make this machine. And he said, I can use this machine for your science to prove that the thing I think that is right, that proves that you're wrong. So you no longer get money and you're kicked off the council. It's a fucking scam, mate. During the 1960s, for example, extensive radiological examination of a series of mummies revealed skeletal evidence of a very rare inherited disease called alkaptonuria. Fuck me, this is going to be hard. Which deposits a characteristic black pigment into the spine. Oh, he's got them black bones, like them chickens' meat. This pigment was seen in almost a quarter of the mummies x-rayed. I wonder imagine if it was just the x-ray just burning the spine. Although in modern society, alkaptonuria occurs in only one person in 5 million, expert papers were written, expert papyruses, shall we say, let's use the correct terminology, guys, were written which offered explanations for this remarkably high frequency of black spines in ancient Egypt. 20 years later, a new technique called nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy demonstrated a molecular similarity between the black spinal pigment and juniper resin, an embalmer's material. So they didn't really have black spines, they were just dyeing them black with juniper berries. Possibly. I mean, we may be jumping ahead there. This book is not simply a history of Egyptian medicine. It is an attempt to present an overview of health and disease in ancient Egypt and to outline important developments in the practice of medicine. Hypothetical or unsubstantiated data have not been included, that's a shame, but evidence, we'll add that ourselves as we go, but evidence from modern scientific research has been quoted, where this reinforces pathological and epidemiological findings, epidemiological findings, which I think means skin. Epidermis is skin in it, I think, or it's either skin or that little bit of tissue that connects your foreskin to the tip of your bell end, which I can't imagine why you would have. Maybe he was partnered up with the endoscopy guy, was measuring the bumholes of the mummies. I like the idea that they just tattooed like ruler markings on the fingers, and they shoved it up the mummy's arse to see how far they could get it, and they're just like, oh well, it's not good enough to say to the first or second knuckle. They want like the exact measurement. Oh, fucking 4.5 centimetres on this one, and then they do nothing with the data. A volume of this size can serve only as an introduction to the fascinating subject of Egyptian medicine. Interested readers will find the bibliography a useful source for further information. Well, we won't be reading that to you. Now, the next chapter is health and hygiene, and I am going to carry on. And I'll then it will be broken up into week by week or so, maybe every other week on Patreon, for those of you that are interested. But here's the first chapter. There's a picture before we get to there. It says it's a limestone relief from the causeway of Unis's pyramid Saqqara, 5th dynasty, showing the effects of famine. And it looks like just maybe like an anorexic fella, maybe, I would argue, with a bendy belly. So I don't know why that's famine. That's just a skinny guy, really, with something wrapped around their chest. I would say it looks more like someone's being tortured in that picture, but it's a black and white picture, which I can tell you now, they've gone for black and white because it's cheaper to print with, which is what I'll be printing my new book with, which I still haven't got a name for, but I am throwing around the name A Pocket Full of Shit, because it sounds like a pocket full of shit. They're all apocryphal sort of things because they're idioms, or maybe an idiom's guide. One or the other. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Health and hygiene. I like the idea as well, that, do you remember when you're at school and there was always that lad in class that you didn't want to read because he'd either do stupid voices or he'd fuck it all up on purpose? I like to think that's me now. Like, you're just there going, please just read the book, stop adding in these other bits. But if I don't add in the other bits, then all I'm doing is reading a book, which I don't think you're allowed to do. So we add in we season in our own stuff. But I like the idea that I could go back in time and do that in school and just start making bits up, and people being like, it doesn't say that on the page at all. It doesn't say anyone measured the anal cavity of the mummies with their knuckles. During the 67-year reign of Ramesses II, 19th dynasty, an estimated 2.5 million people lived in Egypt. Most were landless peasants, forced to live in the skies on blimps, dependent for an existence upon the beneficence of the local landlord and the caprices of the Nile's annual inundation. When the Nile rose too high, houses and fields... What? Oh, sorry, I put the emphasis on the wrong word. When the Nile rose too high, Houses and fields were flooded, but many times in Egypt's history the inundation proved inadequate. Lack of water brought famine, pestilence and disease, and the other horsemen hadn't been invented yet, so there were no records of how many people died during the 7-year failure of the Nile's annual flood during the reign of Pharaoh Djoser during the 3rd dynasty. We're already jumping all over time-wise, but it may have been many thousands. I like the idea though that the 4th horseman of the apocalypse is just some form of pedantic. So you've got famine, pestilence, disease and pedanticism. And that's not how you say pedantic, people. An inscription engraved on a granite block on the island of Sahel during the Greek period tells how during this famine children wept, grown-ups swayed. As to the old, their heart was sad, their knees gave way. They sat on the ground, their arms swinging. Right, okay, so that's probably what that picture's to do with. How unusual then. So just from a formatting perspective, the picture for this chapter is on the end of the page of the last chapter, which saves paper, really, which is a nice little move there. The most common ordinary dwelling in early pre-dynastic Egypt, was the round hut built of poles, reeds and mud. This will later change to a square shape, and later still, a pyramid was built of mud bricks dried in the sun, the traditional adobe house, or, in modern parlance, the adobe suite. These dwellings have survived less well than the stone-constructed tombs and temples from which most of our knowledge of ancient Egypt is derived. See, that's suspicious, isn't it? It's very suspicious to me. Who came, like that someone's come along and destroyed these houses that were made of poles, reeds and mud, but they just left the stone ones there. Very, very suspicious, that. Maybe purposefully, done, do you know what I mean, to try and hide something. During the dynastic period, Egypt was divided into provinces, or nomes, but without the G, nomes, and by the new kingdom there were 32 nomes, each with its own administrative centre and urban development. The most densely populated areas were the Delta and the area in southern Egypt from Thebes to Aswan, estimated at over 200 people per square kilometre. I don't know if that's a lot. Bubastis, the capital of the 18th nome of Lower Egypt. It sounds like when you're watching an anime and they're like, in Sector 7, there's a monster in Sector 7. Which was inhabited throughout the dynastic period, covered an area of about 75 hectares. Heliopolis, which is clearly the coolest name we've heard so far, near modern-day Cairo, was the largest city in the New Kingdom and had an urban area of about 23 square kilometres. Apart from this natural urban development, seems like an oxymoron, natural urban development, there were periods when large workforces were needed for the construction of state buildings, most particularly the Pharaoh's mortuary complex. See, that's fucking weird, isn't it? They're like, oh, we're going to need a lot of boys for this. Call in the lads. I want you to build me fucking tomb. The majority, how fucking morbid as well. The majority of the peasant workforces, see, if that was now, right? If you had, say you've got, what's our equivalent of a fucking land baron? County council, right? The lad who's in charge of your county council or your mayor is like, right, I'm going to be dead in a few months, so I'm going to enslave or maybe, coerce the peasants into building this for food and shelter, and I'll go easy on them a bit maybe, and maybe not molest and rape the wives as often as what I used to let the lads do before I started doing this. In my old age, I'm going a bit lax, I'm getting a bit friendlier, and you'd get the people now would be shitting in there. They'd be like, oh, that's where his head's going to be, I'm going to rub my bumhole on that. So how do we know that they didn't do this then? Where would we up to? The majority of the peasant workforce is used for the building of public works were employed only during the period when the Nile flooded and work on the land ceased. Remains of housing built to accommodate at least 4,000 workmen have been found near the Pyramid of Khafre at Giza, the 4th dynasty, although the maximum seasonal workforce may have numbered 100,000 people. It's a lot of people to keep moving back and forth, innit, that? Keep saying employed as well, which goes against what we was always told about people in Egypt with jobs. We was always told, they were slaves and they were forced to do stuff. But this makes it seem like, they were like, oh, fucking hell, we can't dig anymore because it's underwater. But imagine if they were controlling the water back then like they supposedly are now, so that they could flood the land and this guy could get his new conservatory built. The purpose-built workman's town of Calhoun was constructed to house the officials and workforce building the pyramid of Sesostris II at Lahoun in about 1895 BC. The larger houses in Calhoun generally included a reception hall or living room, women's quarters, a kitchen, and a room with washing or bathing facilities. There was no TV room as television hadn't been invented yet. There were also cellars and circular granaries. In poorer as well as rich dwellings, stone tanks used for washing were set into the mud floors, and running down the centre of every street were the remains of stone drainage channels. The town housed an estimated population of 5,000 on a 14-hectare site. No idea for sense of scale if that's good or not. Are they packed in there? Have they got a bit of room? Who knows? They wouldn't be swinging cats though, would they, the Egyptians? They revered them too much. Sir William Flinders Petrie, the British Egyptologist who excavated Calhoun between 1888 and 1890, I bet he got a lovely tan in that time, discovered that almost every house had been invaded by rats and their holes had been stuffed with stones and rubbish. You don't know that, man. What the fuck are you on about? A pottery rat trap was also found, which could just be a rat climbed into a pot and got stuck and died. And this guy's come along and gone, this is clearly a rat trap, this. Look at these dragon bones. These dragon bones, clearly dragons weren't real. Clearly these were dinosaurs. These were the bones of giants. But I'm going to tell everyone they're from massive lizards. Fucking mental. I'd love a job like this where you can just make stuff up and people are like, wow, really? Cats were kept to protect food and grain from rodents, but in the absence of a cat, cat's grease was recommended as a deterrent. Please tell us what cat's grease is. Is there a way to find out what cat's grease is in the back of the book? Because it's in thingies, it's in marks. Wait for it. There's a fucking glossary of medical terms. Cat's grease is not in there. So we got to imagine it's ground up cat into a paste maybe. Or maybe warmed up from a paste and then rubbed on the floor to scare away the rats. Because it's actually the act of grinding up a live cat which scared the rats away. Because they thought, fucking hell, if they'll do that to fucking mittens, what are they gonna do to my lot? The workmen's village of Deir el Medina was occupied by the Ban artisans for 450 years, from the beginning of the 18th dynasty to the end of the 20th. The dwellings were originally built. It says to go to the picture there. So the picture on the other side is either, I don't know, it could be a man, could be a woman, who knows, who is taking a photo. Someone's taken a photograph of this landmass here with these buildings that have been excavated, I imagine. But they've wanted to get a photograph of this person in front of the buildings. So I can only assume the person with the camera in the picture is a woman, and a bloke's probably took the picture. Yep, photographed by a guy called David. So maybe it was just a means of taking a picture of this lady. Who knows? I can't say that. I'm merely thinking out loud. Do you know what I mean? It seems a bit weird that you've got this massive thing, historical thing, and then, I mean, he must have had loads of time to take the photograph, though. Do you know what I mean? He must have had loads of time to take it. The dwellings were originally built of mud brick, but later housing included walls with stone bases. The single-storey, flat-roofed houses had an average of 4 rooms with small windows with stone or wooden grills. The inside walls might be decorated with frescoes or whitewashed, and wooden doors opened directly onto the street. You don't know that, man. There's a load of shit, this. They could have been wallpapered for all we know. They could have had drawings of little fellas with yaks. That's what they could have had. During the reign of Seti I 19th dynasty, there was about 600 people living in the village, and unlike in the earlier years of settlement, the animals were kept in compounds outside rather than inside the village walls. The smallest workman's village at Tel Al Amarna was built in the 18th dynasty to house the workmen constructing Akhenaten's new city. Akhenaten, that's a terrible name. Akhenaten's new city. Akhenaten. Oh, right, okay. Akhenaten's new city. Akhenaten. Which is much better, actually. Much more fun to say. Akhenaten. It's a lot of mad words in this. It was occupied by some... I have no idea if this is even interesting. This has gone on for ages, man. How long's this fucking chapter? We've got another fucking 4 or 5 pages of this. I did say that I would read all of this, but we're going to be here for about an hour. We could carry on. Fuck it. Why not? the free version can have adverts in, I suppose. Yeah, where were we? It was occupied by 350 inhabitants for about 13 years. That's, again, speculation, surely. Each house had 4 areas. What the fuck has this got to do with medicine? This is like archaeology, this. It's not even setting the scene. It's not telling us anything about medicine. It's just telling us people are packed in. If this is going to be six densely packed pages of if you put loads of people in a small space, they did half get ill, you know, and you work them to death. Oh, a lot of disease. I'll be pissed off if that's the case. We still need to find this fucking word we were reading. Each house had 4 areas: a work area, an outer work area, a living room, a bedroom, and a kitchen with stairs leading to the roof. Which I feel like we've already been told this. The houses, although not elaborate, were sturdily built with mainly whitewashed walls and ceilings. None of these settlements had wells. So water had to be brought over from the river, which at Del El Medina was a mere 1.5 kilometres away. In this village, water was first stored in large jars within the houses, but later a community reservoir was built outside the north gate. In all the dwellings, furniture was sparse and simple. People slept on the floor on clay benches. What? People slept on the floor. Oh, it's a list. People slept on the floor, on clay benches, along the wall, or on beds of interlaced cord with a wooden headrest. I never liked the wooden headrest. It's hard when you're watching telly, innit? But I suppose, as we found out earlier, television hadn't been invented back then. They had nothing to be staring at. Feathers were used to stuff cushions, although these were used as back supports rather than pillows. Yeah, because they've made fucking wooden headboards. Why didn't they make string headboards? That would have been a lot comfier. Or just make a bed at an angle. Never understood why a bed's not at a 45-degree angle so you can see the telly. Why is it flat? Why is it like perpendicular to the floor? Parallel to the floor, sorry. Perpendicular to the floor would probably make you fall over when you fall asleep. But a nice 45, maybe 35 to 45 degree angle for beds. That'd be nice, that. Be pretty good. Comfort, innit? Where were In ordinary Egyptian homes, the lavatory consisted of a wooden stool, which must have been a nightmare to pass, under which a cup half filled with sand might be placed, or, at Deir el Medina, a coarse terracotta closet stool, which would be even harder to pass, much, much drier than the wooden stool. In the fine houses of Akhetaten, bathroom suites had bath or shower rooms where water was drained out of the house through a covered gully into a tank. What the fuck is a gully? And lavatories with wood, pottery or stone seats above large bowls of sand. See, they had all this sand and heat, but they didn't think to make themselves like glass toilets. You'd think they'd go for that, wouldn't you? Or plastic even. I mean, I don't really understand how plastic's made from sand, but it's supposed to be, innit? That's where silica comes from. Maybe you're realising now how thick I truly am. The household commodity, which would not have been wasted, was food, particularly amongst poorer communities. The estimated daily intake of food during the dynastic period was between 480 and 576 grams, a figure comparable with that of modern Latin America. The main crops grown in Egypt were cereals, emmer wheat for bread, and barley for beer. Bread was also made from the heads of the white lotus. There were pulses such as lentils and chickpeas, vegetables such as lettuces, onions, cucumbers, leeks, radishes and garlic, fruit, particularly dates, figs, grapes and melons. We've got another picture. Plants grown for oil, such as sesame, grapes for wine, pomegranate and palm wine were also made. I don't like wine, don't really drink anymore because I can't stop. But pomegranate wine, I imagine I'd give that a bash if I had that in front of me. The latter being used for embalming and rinsing out the abdominal cavity and washing the extracted organs. So palm wine. And now we keep making palm oil, don't we? And cooking everything in palm oil. Could this be... So, just as a speculation then, we're like posh people and vegans and gimps online are trying to convince us that we need to eat more palm oil because what we need to do is we need to kill the orangutans, but not directly because they're obviously going to evolve to overtake us at some point in the very distant future. So we kill them by destroying the trees and that, and then we have palm oil, which is the thing that's being pushed a lot. But this is saying palm wine, which I imagine is not far off from palm oil, just not fermented. Let's say it's close to the same. That would clean out the abdominal cavity and wash the extracted organs. So is that clearing us through so that when we do go to the afterlife, we've been prepared by the rich people? Is this the rich people finally looking out for us? Papyrus, which is paper, for those of you that don't know, and flax for writing materials, clothing, sails and ropes, like hemp. Honey, dates, raisins, tiger nuts and carob pods were available as sweeteners. Meat were a rare luxury for most people, herds being grazed on marginal land, especially in the marshes of the delta. Cattle, sheep, goats and pigs were eaten. Meat, fish and fowl were dried and probably salted. Geese, ducks, quail and other game birds were fairly plentiful, and hunting these was a favourite pastime of the rich, as it is now. Domestic fowl may have been a rare import during the New Kingdom, but became popular in the Roman period. Eggs, cheese, milk and perhaps yoghurt were available. I wouldn't trust fucking eating the cheese, milk and yoghurt of Egypt before the time of refrigeration, though. That can't have been nice. Like, they must have had fucking strong stomachs. No wonder they needed the palm wine to break up whatever was in there. Whether milk was drank in large quantities is uncertain. Nor is it known whether the Egyptians suffered the lactose intolerance seen in Middle Eastern and African populations today. Most people ate 3 times a day, even if the meal was simply bread and beer. What a fucking life. Just on the lash. As soon as you wake, I fucking love doing that. I used to love waking up and then getting straight into me drink. Me still got some fucking... There's still some whiskey in the sippy cup. Because one of my favourite pastimes was filling, like a sports bottle up, an opaque sports bottle. Put a bit of water in there. Quite a fair bit of whiskey, give it a good shake, and then just walk around drinking out of that. People looking at you thinking, he's got his sports bottle there, fucking whiskey and water, mate. Walking round Aldi, pissed as a fart, drinking out this bottle, chatting to people in the middle aisle. Oh, fucking, I do kind of miss it, but, it's fucking, obviously you can't just keep doing that. Basic payment for workers and their families at Deir el Medina was in grain, fish, vegetables and water. There was no monetary system in Egypt until the Greek period. They also received pottery and wood for fuel. I'd want the wood for the fuel, I don't know about the pottery. Less regular deliveries were made of cakes, beer and dates, but on festive occasions bonuses were paid in salt, natron, sesame oil and meat. Cloves were occasionally supplied to supplement those woven and made in the village. Whilst the wages were regular, the community lived well. But a major strike occurred in the 29th year of the reign of Ramesses III. Terrible way to fucking tell years, innit? Rather than just being like, this was, fucking 5,432 BC. Not a very creative number there. 1,843 BC. The 29th year of the reign of Ramesses III, which I suppose we could work that out if we go back to here. Ramesses III started in 1182, but then them years go backwards, so 82 take away, 29? Let's take away 30, that puts us at 1150. It's like the second to last year or so, maybe. So maybe 1150, maybe 1149, depending on where it fell, I suppose. When supplies were 20 days late. I imagine that was less of a strike, though, more of just the people were starving, I suppose. If they're getting fed the food, they have to earn the food. The workers' protest. This is what people want online, innit? This is what people are after. People want us to live without us making money. Then they want, we could just exchange it for goods and services, which is basically what we do now. But, I mean, to change back to this seems fucking demented. The workers' protests outline the problem. We have come because we're hungry and thirsty. We have no clothes and we have no ointments. We have no greens. Several more strikes occurred in successive reigns. In successive reigns, I was expecting the word regions. I thought it was going to be like a widespread thing throughout Egypt, but getting ahead of myself. And these were the first documented instances of collective protest by a workforce. This still has fuck all to do with health and hygiene. From the instruction of Duaf, the satire of the trades, Papyrus, Salient 2, Papyrus Salia 2. Written during the Middle Kingdom, we know the sort of life that the average Egyptian might expect in any trade except that of scribe, which was considered the easiest occupation of all. I like to imagine that the scribe was the easiest job because no cunt could read. Like, that's the dream job in it, really, where you've got something that no one can check if that's right. Like being the IT guy in an office. Like, you're the IT guy. No one else in there really knows how that server works or any of the machines work. They just know that you know. And the scribe's there going, yeah, I know what all these things are, yeah. And he just keeps drawing his boss being hung, drawn and quartered on every page. Oh, that's all he's writing. I'm going to kill my boss. I'm going to kill everybody around me. I'm going to set this place on fire and I'm going to burn it all down. This massive library that I'm in here, this great hall, this great library here, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to burn it all to the ground. And no one will know it was me. No one will know why this happened. Just gone mental, mad with power. I have seen the metal worker at his task at the mouth of his furnace. His fingers were like the hide of crocodiles. He stank worse than fish spawn. The cobbler is very wretched. He is forever begging. He has nothing to bite but leather. The fuller washeth upon the river bank, or a near neighbour of the crocodiles. No idea what that was about, really. A weird little excerpt there. Again, I do quite well at picking hard to follow books, don't I? Unless it's just the way, maybe this is why I don't retain information that well. Because my brain's doing this anyway, where I'm interjecting myself here for you guys, for your benefit. I'm just saying it out loud. But also, maybe it's the way that I read the sentence and the emphasis I put on certain words. Because a lot of this to me has meant fuck all. Then I didn't explain the picture. It never told us about the picture on the last page. It was another, it's basically just a woman slapping a guy in the forehead, and maybe they're shitting into buckets, possibly. Then we've got a picture of an X-ray, maybe of a skull, the teeth and jaws of a male who died in his early 20s. There is evidence of severe dental attrition. I imagine because he's been biting the leather. Did he say? The cobbler's very wretched, forever begging cobblers. On large building projects, doctors were appointed. We're getting into health now. There's fucking 16 pages in. Doctors were appointed to oversee the health of the workmen, but keeping epidemic disease and occupational injuries at bay must have been an enormous task. Cover illustration. Okay, so the cover illustration is very hard to understand. I've got no idea what's going on, and that just looks like a load of people maybe holding snakes and funnels, trying to belt each other over the head. I don't understand what that meant. A chief physician. This is only really, what we've got now as well. This is why we have things like the NHS. The NHS, more than, I assume, just as a guess, the NHS was probably invented by people that were building factories who went, hang about, look, we're getting all these people, but they're getting a bit sick or they're saying they're ill and that. If we get doctors in, we can keep our workforce looking good and they can keep making us weapons so that we can go over to the Middle East, I suppose, or Africa or Asia, and then we can, or Europe, I suppose, back then more likely, or maybe even America, and we can use them to fucking, destroy each other. But we've got to keep our workforce in tip-top condition. I'll even build them houses. Like all the red brick houses, I think all the red brick houses were built by rich people so they could effectively keep their workforce local to the area and not have to have them leave the area. But we're getting very distracted here. A chief physician was appointed for the workmen's village at Derrière el Medina, and a doctor by the name of Metu was physician of the serfs. There were also foremen on site who kept records on slates of absenteeism, and these provide evidence of the evils keeping a man from his work. One reads, 4th month of the flood day, 27. No wonder he fucking struggled with time. That's nonsense. 4th month of the flood day, 27. Well, I don't know what that means. That's not a translation. It doesn't help. Nebnefer was ill. He got stung by a scorpion. And another. 1st month of winter, day 21. Tementu was absent. Had a fight with his missus. There were no records. I like the idea that even back then women were throwing these ceramic pots. Don't throw that. That's what I got paid last week. That's all we've got to see us through to Tuesday. Well, that's all I've got to see us through the 28th to the 30th day after the flood day. And still she pings it at his head because she saw him eyeing up the woman from across the road. There are no records of absence from work due to toothache, although most Egyptians must have suffered severely. Again, pure speculation. That sounds like something I would have made up. A comprehensive study of 252 Nubian skulls spanning a 10,000 year period from the Mesolithic 9000 to 6000 BC to Christian AD 55 to 1300 eras has shown a significant reduction both in tooth size, 1% per 1,000 years, and in facial masticatory musculature and proportions. We did quite well for mental words, didn't we? I'm going to be mint at Scrabble again after this. A shift in diet from that. Because that's the thing about my memory. I'll remember things I've looked at, but just not what any of it means. A shift in diet from that of the hunter-gatherer towards carbohydrates resulted in the selection of smaller, more caries-resistant teeth, with a consequent reduction in chewing apparatus. You can't guess the next word. Of 1,188 teeth examined from the Giza collection of 18 skulls, 18 skulls gives you over nearly 1,200 teeth. That's mad. That's a mad amount of teeth. 18 times 36. That doesn't feel right, but maybe isn't 36 teeth in an head. There was only 38 carious cavities. In only one instance had the cavity progressed beyond the enamel to invade the pulp chamber. Oh, we're back to that guy that was sticking his finger in things. That's a mint name for a bumhole. The pulp chamber. Oh, I've just been measuring a pulp chamber. And cause an apical abscess or a root abscess. The Manchester Museum collection consists of material dating from the late dynastic, Greek and Roman periods, where the carcinogenic factor was much higher and where almost all of the cavities had resulted in abscesses. So the Greek and Romans had worse teeth, which surely that could just be because of where they live somehow. Maybe all the wine though as well, because there's a lot of sugar in there in fruits and stuff. Whilst caries results in progressive loss of tooth substance and is associated with increased use of dietary sugars, called it periodontal disease, is characterised by inflammation. I actually literally celebrated that by making gun fingers, by the way, and dropped the book and had to find me link and me line in the page again. By inflammation of the gum surrounding the tooth. Chronic inflammation eventually leads to loss of both the alveolar supporting bone and the tooth. In Egypt, periodontal disease was very prevalent and was provoked by the stresses and strains applied to the teeth during chewing and by serious dental attrition, which again sounds like a good thing you'd hear in a comic book or a kid's cartoon, like the serious dental attrition, wearing down of the teeth. As if that's of all the fucking words, like, so it describes to us what dental attrition means, which I think you'd have to be a fucking idiot to not know, whereas masticatory musculature and proportions doesn't explain what that is. Mastication is chewing, so I imagine the muscles are chewing, but it'd be nice to be sure. There's been other bits as well where I've thought, what the fuck is that? A remedy to treat a tooth which is eaten away where the gums begin may be found on the Ebers papyrus. It consists of a mixture of cumin, frankincense, myrrh, gold, carob pod pulp, ground to a powder and applied to the tooth. Dental attrition is common to all early populations, but that seen on the teeth of almost every ancient Egyptian throughout all periods of history is much more extensive. That was a big sentence. Vegetables containing a high silica content, so eating those plastic vegetables, easily abraded querns for grinding corn, and ill-cleansed foods are explanations common to all cultures, but the Egyptians had the additional hazard of the contamination of their cereals, flour, and consequently their bread by fragments of sand and by grit, which may have been introduced during the milling process. So people were adding a bit of sand to pad out the flour bags, by the sound of things. We've got a couple fucking rocks worth of flour here, but put in a couple cups of sand and we'll get a bit more out of it. I'd do it. I would do that now. If I was selling flour, it'd be like, fucking hell, we got this flour here to sell, but got fucking piles of cocaine there. Put some of that cocaine into this flour here, and we'll be able to sell more of this flour. It'll be like we've got more flour. Do you know what I mean? It's just the same, isn't it? Milling process as a cutting agent. Attrition wore down the teeth to such an extent that the dental pulp became exposed and infected. These resulted in abscesses and the formation of cysts in the jaw. It also altered the shape of the cutting surfaces, the cusps of the teeth. I like the word cusps. The cusps of, on the cusp of me tooth. Oh, on the cusp. And this, in turn, caused the movements of the, my fucking word, the temporomandibular joint to become abnormal and overloaded. See, no explanation of temporomandibular. That's got to be the muscle in between where your jaw connects. Let's have a quick look in the explanations of medical terms in the back. T comes after P in the alphabet. So it'll be back here. Temporomandibular joint. The joint which connects and articulates the temporal bone and the mandible in the skull. So now we need to know what the mandible and the temporal bone is. Doesn't tell us what the temporal bone is. Right, okay. We'll just fucking go back to where we were. This eventually led to marked osteoarthritic changes, which are very commonly seen in Egyptian skulls. Many jawbones show evidence of small holes, which may have been interpreted as bore holes made by dental surgeons to drain pus from abscesses. However, scholars such as Filchi Leek have offered the alternative explanation that these holes were caused by the dissolution of the bone by pus. So that's terrifying, isn't it, that your body can make pus which melts your own bones. So numerous foci of dental infection must have undermined the health of many people and resulted in widespread halitosis. Which we already know halitosis isn't a real thing. Halitosis isn't real. That was supposedly made up by, was it the people that made fucking mouthwash to make people think that they've got bad breath and give it some like scientific name? I thought that was proven on QI to be a load of shit. A recipe for a breath. Unless everything on QI was all lies, and I've just taken it all as fact, thinking, oh, this is dead interesting. I'll believe this because it's interesting rather than believing it because it's true. Maybe I'm just QIing. Maybe I'm QIing you now. Maybe none of this book's real. Maybe I'm just sat here making it all up. I wish I could, though, because I'd have to be able to make up these words. We've read that bit about bone holes. So numerous foci of dental infection, halitosis, a recipe for breath sweetener, frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon bark and other fragrant plants, boiled with honey and thrown at the face of other inmates, shaped into pellets, was also used as a house fumigator. I thought that said penal cleanliness. Personal cleanliness and the appearance were considered to be extremely important. Soap was unknown in Egypt, but a refreshing body scrub could be made from a mixture of powdered calcite, red nature, and salt and honey. Then it says Eb 715, which I don't know what that's in reference to. Oh, maybe that's literally a reference. Rich and poor washed frequently. Rich and poor washed frequently and before every meal. Oh, no, it means like rich people and poor people all washed. You know, suppose it doesn't cost out to wash. It does now though, doesn't it? You have to pay to wash now. Pay to wash. Oh, that'd be mint meat. Imagine that meat. A service, right, where a guy drives around in a van and he's got a few people in the back of his van. Maybe sex workers or something, or maybe they're just people. Maybe he's kidnapped them. Who knows? You know, who are we to judge? This is our make-believe anyway. But he gets a few people in his van, and it's like a pay-to-play, pay-to-view. You could pay-per-view as well. You could watch through a little window in the van, but you could pay to wash. So you pay, you go into this van, and then you get to wash the person of your choice. Maybe washing them, freeze them as well, but not as in like Mr. Freeze, like bring the temperature down. I mean, like release them back into the wild, I suppose. The street, you know, maybe they're 30 miles away because no one's picked them, which would then encourage the driver to instead pick on and prey on the most beautiful of people, because obviously people, if you put a really good looking woman in there or a really good looking man, people are going to be more inclined to want to wash them because they're going to want to touch them. You get fucking hideous troll looking people in that van. People are going to pay to wash them for a laugh, but then they're not going to really care which one they wash. So you'd have to really like walk that line really carefully, I imagine, for which one you would go for. I think you'd probably make more money kidnapping beautiful people, plus then you could ransom them back potentially. But you could also have a little side business where your mate follows that van with a little bus. Very convenient bus, holds back about half a mile, and just happens to be going where that person's from. And then maybe the cycle continues. You take them, little detour. You're like, oh, sorry, the bus has broke down, guys. You're going to have to stop here. Luckily, we're at the services, but I can't get the bus to start up again. We can't carry on going because the other driver's not here either, you see. So you're going to have to get out. Then they all nip off to Mackie D's or Burger King or just for a simple piss. Maybe a little sly cig under the trees. Guy with a net, guy with a bag. Bag 'em up. New van, new town. Get 'em washed again. Do you know what I mean? Fucking genius idea. Much use was made of ointments to keep the skin soft, and unguents and aromatic oils were considered extremely important. At banquets and on other occasions, men and women wore lumps of animal fat on top of their wigs or hair. Okay, I didn't make that up, that's real. These were impregnated with perfume, and as the fat melted, it ran down the body, drenching the body with the scent of animal fat and perfume. I used to smell of animal fats when I worked in a butcher's. I'd be in a butcher's all day, come out smelling of meat and bleach, and that didn't make women want me. Yeah, I didn't do anything like that. Deodorants were made from ground carob pod pulp, or a mixture of incense and porridge rolled into pellets. Women shaved their... This is hard to make extra bits up because it sounds so nonsensical. Women shaved their bodies with bronze razors or used tweezers to pluck out stray hairs. A prescription for a depilatory included the boiled and crushed bones of a bird mixed with fly dung. How do you even find fly dung? I don't know fucking how many flies you've got to have to be able to prescribe fly shit. Oil, sycamore juice, gum and cucumber. I don't know what that list was even for. What is a depilatory? A depilatory. Let's have a look at the in the glossary. Depilatory. A depilatory isn't listed. We're supposed to just know what that means. I don't know. I've got no idea. It's a good mixture, though, isn't it? Crushed up bird bones, fly dung, oil, sycamore juice, gum, and cucumber. Men were generally clean-shaven. Often the head was also shaved. Herdsmen who guarded the cattle in the pastures were the exception, and were often depicted with beards. In a climate where parasites, fleas and lice were plentiful, hair provided a natural and attractive habitat for lice. Eggs have been found in hair of the mummies. It's mad that they can last that long, innit, the lice, with nothing to feed on. Well, I suppose the eggs might dried out, but still, that's fucking weird. Although translations of various texts have suggested the symptoms of venereal disease, they've got VD, there is no clear evidence for its existence. However, prostitution was an established aspect of sexual behaviour, and although adultery was officially condemned, there is textual evidence from Deir el-Medina of both adultery and abortions. A man might legitimately have a mistress while he remained unmarried, but polygamy and the possession of concubines appear to be rare outside the royal family and high society. The evidence from Deir el-Medina suggests that a woman's legal status regarding marriage, ownership of property and inheritance was equal to that of her husband. Consanguineous marriage was rare except amongst the royal family, where a pharaoh might marry his sister or daughter in order to establish an inheritance through the female line. So consanguineous, I'm pretty sure that's in uneducated guesses actually. That means incestuous marriage then, I suppose. Sexual deviation such as bestiality and necrophilia are not well attested. The dream books contain references to the coupling of men and women with certain animals, but these dreams were usually considered to be bad omens. I would imagine so. Oh, fucking hell, love, I had a fantastic dream last night where I was fucking a cat. No one's ever woke up and said that. If you even tell someone about that dream, you're not saying it in a positive light, are you? Who's waking up and being like, fucking hell, I was dreaming last night that I was fucking... You ever seen them little creatures that look like beavers that swing their heads around but they don't have the big tails? Groundhogs, I think they're called. I had two of them sellotaped together and just mashing me dick with them. No one's waking up and telling anyone that. Of course it's a fucking bad omen, you fucking weirdo. Herodotus, writing in 5th century BC, observed that the beautiful wives of notable men were not delivered to the embalmers until several days after death in order to lessen the chances of violation of their bodies. Thought that was going the other way. Thought that meant so the guy could have a last few goes on her while she was still warm and plump, or perky maybe, before the skin starts to give. Lastly, there is the apocryphal tale written on a 25th dynasty papyrus, who enjoyed an illicit relationship with his general Sassine. Although age at marriage varied, Egyptian girls usually married at 12 or 13 and the boys a year or so older, immediately upon reaching sexual maturity. A study of 709 dynastic skulls from sites at Asyut and Jeblin, housed in the Institute of Anthropology, Turin, revealed the average age at death to be 36 years old. I'd be in my old age then, potentially there, past middle age, and I'd be dead soon. What a time to be alive. The Egyptians delighted in the birth of a child and probably breastfed into the subsequent pregnancy. What the fuck does that mean? The Egyptians delighted in the birth of a child and probably breastfed into the subsequent pregnancy. I don't know what it means, the pregnancy that followed the birth. Wealthy women employed wet nurses. Prescriptions for galactagogues, substances which increase the flow of milk, may be found in the papyrus. However, the likelihood of all live births flourishing to adulthood was small, and giving birth brought its own hazards. See, that's weird as well, isn't it? The idea that you'd get a wet nurse and be like, "What, fucking..." It's like a mum cooking herself. Do you know what I mean? Like, "What, I could bond with my child. I could have a lovely bond here with my child, but I'm going to let some poor woman with massive tits do it." And that's never going to end badly, because my husband's going to hate having this other woman around with huge, heaving, heavy tits. Fucking weird. Galactagogues, though, is a fucking well good word. That means substances which increases the flow of milk. However, the likelihood of all the hieroglyphs, meaning to give birth, provide information about the way Egyptian women had their babies. Figures 6 and 7. Sorry if there was a rocking noise there. I keep moving my foot around. They adopted a squatting position rather than a recumbent one for the actual birth, and they used the body sufficiently above the ground to allow room for the newborn infant. The Westcar Papyrus says of the infant, they washed it, cut off its navel cord, and laid it on a bed of bricks. Fucking hell. The studies of mummies have revealed horrific birth injuries, which were fatal in some cases and undoubtedly caused chronic disability in others. Princess Inhet of the 11th dynasty died soon after giving birth. She had a viscovaginal fistula, which must have caused severe postpartum infection and, I assume, depression. This distressing condition, commonly a result of poor care in childbirth, was recognised in the Carhoon Papyrus. Prescription for a woman whose urine is in irksome place. If the urine keeps coming and she distinguishes it, she will be like this forever. The first successful operation for vesciovaginal fistula was not performed until 1849 by the American gynecologist James Marion Sims. Vaginal and rectal prolapse have been found in several specimens, although that's good news for the guy that's measuring the bumholes with his finger, innit? He gets a bit more to push through if they found prolapsed mummies. It has been found in several specimens, although the embalming technique of evisceration through the anus may prevent a similar pathological appearance. The Archaeological Survey of Nubia mentions a deformed Coptic who died in childbirth as a result of congenitally absent sacroiliac joint, which prevented the pelvis from expanding during labour. An interesting finding by Elliot Smith and Dawson, who, with a pregnant 16-year-old, was buried unceremoniously after meeting a violent death. They postulated illegitimate conception. When Pietri was excavating Carhoon, are they going to keep referencing these fucking people? He found buried beneath the earthen floors of some of the houses the victims of various serial killers, boxes which contain the bodies of babies. Infant burials placed within the precincts of the dwelling have been found at pre-dynastic and dynastic sites, probably to ensure the safe delivery and survival of the next child. So you keep them buried under the house, and that means the next one gets delivered. Obviously, they were getting delivered to the wrong places, man. If all these boxes of babies were under the house, they needed to put them in front of the door so people knew they were there. Or or so that the spirit of the dead baby would re-enter the mother's body in a new conception. This practice was recorded in Upper Egypt in the AD 1920s, although that's really not that long ago, 100 years ago. Although Pietri brought back several of the wooden boxes from Carhoon, now in the Manchester Museum and the Petrie Museum of Egyptian Archaeology, the small bodies can no longer be traced for autopsy. And then we've got a couple pictures of people sitting, and one's got a boob with a nipple and maybe a hammer in her hand. They're on birthing stools. Different women, very flat-chested woman and quite a buxom woman. The buxom woman's holding a hammer and seems to have maybe I don't know if it's just a dent in the wall, but like an animal's head. The next chapter is called The Medical Profession, Chapter 3, and if you want to hear that, I hope you're a Patreon subscriber. I hope you enjoyed this. This has been an hour long. I thought this would take me 20 minutes, but there it is. It's an hour. So if you do want to join, patreon.com/worldaroundyou. There'll be a link in the description below. Otherwise, you're hearing that. You're already on Patreon, so just fucking jump over to the next one, I guess. Or fucking see you in a bit.